It is the goal of every patriotic American to preserve our republic so that it can be passed down to future generations. 3 years ago, the Idaho Young Republican organization was nearly extinct, with only a handful of members. Under the leadership of our first speaker tonight, the Idaho Young Republican organization has experienced explosive growth. Here tonight to give us a briefing, please give a warm welcome to the president of Idaho Young Republicans, Daniel Silver.
How's everyone doing? Good. Brent, thank you on behalf of Young Republicans across the state for all that you guys do for the Central Committee, just for the opportunity to be even a small part of tonight. As Brent said, if you weren't familiar with our organization, the Idaho Young Republicans, we are an affiliate of the statewide party. But our heart, our mission field is really on those who are ages 18 to 40. So we're talking about the current voters and the current and future leaders of our state. And as Brent mentioned, to be real honest with you, our new leadership team, we got elected this last January, a year ago. We were down to 7 members in the entire state during a presidential election year in Idaho. And I don't know about you, but when I heard that broke my heart, and it's what made me want to get involved. Well, I'm happy to share with you guys, fast forward 13 months, after an amazing event today, put on by an amazing group, Dan Bell and the youth committee here, we just now crossed our 600th new member in 1 year. We are now having 4,000 followers every day on social media, and we are selling out events across the state. And when you start to get traction like that, you can really start to make a difference in your state. As an example, leading up to the elections this past November, Young Republicans made thousands of phone calls to support local candidates in so-called unaffiliated races, right, to make sure that we made a difference in our schools, school board, in our city councils, in our mayor. And while the federal government is important, it's those local leaders who have a really, really big impact on our lives. Also, what's really cool is not just reaching out, but we're getting people involved. We had over 20 Young Republican members run for office for local leadership roles, and I'm happy to say that more than a dozen won their races this year. Now, we can pat ourselves on the back and feel okay about that, but the reality is there's so much more to do. And so as we enter into 2022, our target is we're reaching 1,000 new members this year. Not just because it's a nice round number, but because we've done the math, we've looked at the analytics, and when you look at the people moving in and the gains the Democrats are making, that's the amount of people we feel we need to have an effective ground game to take back the gains that the Democrats are making. We just launched our financial campaign giving for this year. Our goal is to raise $50,000 to help support those events. Most of our events are free. If you remember back when you're in your 20s and 30s, your student loans, saving for a home, we try to make as much as we can free for our members to really make a difference. Now, the last thing I want to leave you with here, guys, is, we get a question all the time, I do, about, hey, why do you guys do what you're doing? What does it matter? And, many of you probably heard me say this before, but I always joke and say, there's a lot of differences between Democrats and Republicans. One of the biggest differences, to my heart, is that Democrats have a lot of youth, a lot of noise. But look at the country of the last year, not a lot of wisdom. On the Republicans, we have a lot of wisdom. But look around this room. We don't have a lot of youth. He said we're all old. And, I always joke and say, hey, the media has told us you can identify as a young Republican at any age. So, but here's the thing. When you play that scenario out, though, guys, I really want you to think about this, right? And in fact, I don't know if you know this, the Idaho legislature is the second oldest legislature in the entire country. Okay? Now, with that has a lot of wisdom. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but when you play that scenario out 10, 20 years, what ends up happening? On the Democrat side, you have unwise adults who have unwise kids who grow up, and now they can take the state in a direction we don't want it to go. On the Republican side, you have all of this wisdom, but nobody to pass it to. That's why we do what we do. We're out there every day fighting. We love Idaho. We love Kootenai County. If possible, maybe even more than Gooey's from Dockside. But we can't do it alone. We're not going to win on 18 to 40s alone, but where we will win is on all of us investing in them. And so if you'd like to learn more, guys, we have a booth out there. We would love to meet you. Just today we had an amazing event. We had over 50 people show up for axe throwing with a lot of our candidates for statewide office and had over 24 new members. There's a thirst out there, and we can make a difference, but we need to do it together. So thank you very much.